Today on CityCast Nashville, you might have noticed egg prices are on the rise. So we're talking to Councilmember at-large Quinn Evans-Siegel about how to keep backyard chickens in Nashville. I've got a little experience with this after living with 4 hens myself recently. R.I.P. Golden Girls. It's Wednesday, April 16th. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. What are the laws of livestock, urban livestock in Nashville, Tennessee?
Yeah, so we're just talking about urban livestock. If you live in general services in an agriculture district and you have a lot that's over 5 acres and you're in certain residential districts, totally different rules apply to you. You basically live on a farm. You have different rules. But if you're in the city, your rules are that if you have, I think it's 11 hundredths of an acre or less, you can have 2 chickens. Up to 23 hundredths of an acre, you can have up to 4 chickens, and anything more, you can have up to 6 chickens. Most people don't know, like, do I have 23 hundredths or 24 hundredths of an acre? You can look on Parcel Viewer and get a rough idea. As a real estate attorney, I would just caution that that is often not accurate, but it might be the most accurate you're going to get unless you're like me and you have a survey and you know, I actually am exactly 0.24 acres, so I can have exactly up to 6 chickens. 6 chickens is a lot to have in a yard, so, you know, most people probably want to stick to a little fewer, but those are the limits you can have. Now, on the flip side, the minimum you can have is 2. The reason for that is chickens are flock animals, right? They need a buddy. They don't do well without a friend. So just from a health and wellness and thinking about chickens and how they do well, we want to make sure that if you're going to have a chicken, you are sort of treating it humanely and giving it the buddy that it needs to have to live a good life. You should get a permit for that chicken. Currently, you get that through the health department. It is notarized, and you currently have to bring in a check or go to a health department office to pay your $25 annual fee, and you have to do that every single year. That's a process that I've had ongoing conversations with folks at the health department about. I think we hopefully will have some reforms to that sooner to make it easier to do. I would never tell anybody not to get a chicken permit. What we want to make sure people are doing when they get the chicken permit is that they are setting up their yard in a way that complies with the law. What does that mean? That means having a run that meets the minimum criteria, having a house that meets the minimum criteria. All those formulas are in the application. The health department's really good at answering those questions. Those are for the health and safety of the chickens and for your neighbors who don't want to smell your chickens. Those rules are also so that we know where chickens are. Because if you think about something like bird flu, if you, Marie, live on my block and you have chickens and your flock suddenly dies, you have, it's not a mandatory obligation, but it is definitely a strong recommendation that you report that to either the state veterinarian's office or to the USDA so that they can investigate that and determine if that's bird flu. If that happens, typically the state or local authorities will come in and try to notify people in the area that have flocks and say, hey, bird flu's in your area, watch it a little closer, because we want to make sure that we're protecting all the hens in the area. That's for the people, that's for the hens, that's also just for the state of Tennessee. We can talk about this later, but poultry is one of our largest agricultural industries in the state of Tennessee. I don't think people in Nashville think about that, but I mean, this is a $6.5 billion industry in our state. So our hens don't live in isolation. But so those are just sort of the legal requirements, right? You got to have a house, you got to have a run, you got to get your permit, you got to have the right number. There are other little things in your permit you'll see, like if you have feed, you want to make sure you keep it in a container that mice can't get into because mice love chicken feed and you don't want to be like pulling mice into your neighborhood. I mean, mice live everywhere, right? But we don't want to draw them into our urban areas and give them free buffets. It's, you know, they're just sort of things that come with chickens. There are other things. Hawks will come after chickens. Foxes come after chickens. Coyotes come after chickens. And so, you know, I live in the Belmont neighborhood. There are foxes that live in my neighborhood, but we don't want to encourage more foxes to live in the middle of the city. So we just want to make sure that when we're keeping chickens, we do the best we can to make them less attractive to the range of animals that are drawn to chicken habitats, from mice to coyotes in size. To have chickens is to learn to lose something you love, because if you let your chickens out of the run, which a lot of us do because we don't want to keep them cooped up all day, they can be plucked out of the sky. They can be pulled out of the pen. There's so much that can happen to them. We had one who kept getting out of our yard, and we finally found a hole that I think was the size of my fist that chicken was sneaking through, right? But we couldn't figure out. We're like, where is this chicken going? It can't fly. So, there's just the legal requirements to make sure that we're minimizing that the best we can.
I think everybody romanticizes the idea of getting chickens. And I think what you just explained may deter a couple people. I don't know. There are laws. And I don't think we knew that, or at least at the time we had our romantic chicken coop in the back during COVID. Well, right now, with the rising egg prices, I'm curious, are you seeing more people applying for these chicken permits in Nashville?
I think that's probably a question for the health department. I certainly know more people getting chickens. An informal survey of chicken owners I know has revealed that either they've never gotten a permit, or if they got the permit, they never renewed it, because it's just as difficult to renew it as it is to get it. And so people just sort of give up. I will note that it is not cheaper to have chickens than to buy eggs.
That was my next question. Okay.
So you can get it and you will have eggs. They lay eggs for several years, sort of depending on your breed and how you manage your flock. You cannot legally sell your eggs, actually. That's prohibited in the code, because we don't want people to have chickens for a business in the city. We want them to be your pets. If you want it to be a business, you can move to a farm. It's sort of the philosophy of the city of Nashville. But yeah, I think more people are looking at getting chickens. I would tell them to just stop and think. Chickens live for about a decade. And if they're not nabbed or otherwise leaving this world, and they don't lay their whole life. So you can get a heritage breed, which might lay for 7 or 8 years. Those breeds are going to lay, 2 or 3 eggs a week. Most of our chickens are those breeds. Only half our house eats eggs anyway, because we have some allergies. So we just don't need that many eggs. But if you get a chicken that's going to lay an egg every day, it's probably only going to lay for 3 to 4 years. And then you're just going to have a pet chicken for, 5 or 6 years that produces nothing but love. And they're joyful, but they're not feeding you.
Yeah. So have you bonded with your chickens? You said you have 6 chickens?
We can have up to 6.
Oh, up to 6. Okay.
Originally, we got 4. We have a new visitor. I think we could call it our chicken. It belonged to a neighbor / classmate, and it was not getting along with its flock. So the other thing is chickens fight with each other. Like, there's a hierarchy, right? It's when you have chickens, you realize how many of our idioms and sayings have to deal with chickens, right? There's hen houses and pecking order, right? They have a pecking order. There's a reason we talk about pecking orders. This chicken was at the top of the pecking order, and the other chickens were smaller than it. And it was a bully, frankly, to those chickens. So because it was raised in my daughter's class, the mom reached out and said, will you try it with your flock? Because we don't know what to do with it. Typically, it would have gone to one of the sanctuaries in town that will take chickens from folks. But because of bird flu, the sanctuaries are currently not taking chickens. Our chickens are like twice its size. So it's been a good balance. I think it'll probably work out here. That was actually the one that was getting out. We were like, we've never had this problem. And we took this chicken in, and she got out like 4 days in a row. And like, we were very stressed about it. But we figured out where she's been going. So
wow, you're so kind to take in a neighboring chicken.
Well, I just want everybody listening to know we're taking no more chickens.
No more chickens.
Max capacity. Max capacity.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast. We've all set health goals: lose weight, exercise more, eat better. But without a plan, those goals often fade. That may have happened to you. It has definitely happened to me. And that's where Prolon comes in. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you a science-backed, structured approach to stay on track and see real results. And now Prolon is upping their game with the new next-gen 5-day program, delivering the same science-backed benefits in a cleaner, more convenient, and more flavorful format. Prolon is a plant-based nutrition program featuring soups, snacks, and beverages designed to nourish the body while keeping it in a fasting state, triggering cellular rejuvenation and renewal. Next-Gen builds on the original Prolon with 100% organic soups and teas, a richer taste, and ready-to-eat meals. Developed over decades at USC's Longevity Institute and backed by top U.S. medical centers, Prolon has been shown to support biological age reduction, metabolic health, skin appearance, fat loss, and energy. I've been doing the 5-day program, and I feel so much better. I really enjoy the tasty energy bars, the snacks and soups, and the fact that I can enjoy meals, even though the calorie count is super low. The flavors and textures are excellent. An olive oil snack here, broccoli and quinoa soup there, hibiscus tea, a yummy nut bar. It's got the benefits of a 5-day fast, but doesn't have the challenge of doing it with pure liquids. It's a system reset. And also, I know this sounds funny, but it's not. The packaging and directions are fantastic, clear, and well organized and thoughtful. For a limited time, you can be first in line to experience the new Next Gen at special savings. Prolon is offering CityCast listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/city. That's PROLONLIFE.com/city to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/city.
All right, so we have to back up and forgive me. Can you please explain how chickens work? Like, some lay 2 to 3 eggs a week. Do you clean the eggs before you eat them too? I remember something of that we had to do that before we ate them.
Chickens are remarkably low maintenance most of the time. They just sort of put themselves to bed. They lay their own eggs. They eat their own food. You know, you feed them, you give them water, you collect the eggs, but they kind of know what to do. And what's super weird is they know where to lay their eggs, even though nobody has told them this. In like this little corner of their house. It's totally bizarre. We collect the eggs in the summer twice a day because it's hot, but in the winter, once a day or every other day. They're not laying as much then, so we don't have to collect them as much either. Now, I want to be very clear. There is government guidance on how to take care of your eggs. I would highly encourage anybody who is getting chickens to read that government guidance. I am not a public health expert. So what we do may not be right for somebody else's family, and we do not always follow the government guidance. Chickens lay clean eggs. Actually, like you pick them, there's not like poop or anything on them. Occasionally there's a little feather stuck to it, but it just comes right off. As long as where they lay their eggs are clean and you keep that clean, the egg itself is clean. We do not refrigerate our eggs. We eat them pretty quickly, and eggs, when they're laid, have a protective coating from the chickens. And so a lot of people who have eggs do not refrigerate them. In the US, all eggs are refrigerated because they are commercially washed, and that removes that protective coating. And so then you have to refrigerate it. The official guidance from the government is that you wash your egg and you refrigerate it when you bring it in. That's your choice. I'm not here to say that one is right or wrong or to opine on whether or not one is healthy or not. But that's something, if you got chickens, you could look into and decide what is best for you and how you live your life and want to handle that.
All right. Great lesson. I do want to talk about the fact that hens do not need a rooster to lay the eggs. And thankfully, in my neighborhood, I've never, ever, ever heard a rooster. But I do want to know, are roosters allowed?
They are not. So you talk about rules. These are just around hens. Roosters are different. And it's just, you cannot have them unless you are in one of those agricultural zones or larger lots in the GSD. Roosters are loud. That's less of an issue, I think, honestly, than the fact that roosters can be mean. They are supposed to protect their chickens, and they're really good at that. It's a great question. If you have a rooster and we ended up with a rooster, you often don't know when you get your babies, if they're hens or roosters. You can guess, but it's very hard to tell. And if you hatch your own eggs, of course, you have no idea. When we got chickens, some of the ones we got were from a school hatching. And the one we got from school originally turned out to be a rooster.
Whoops.
Yeah. There is a rooster sanctuary in town, Poultry Hollow. They're wonderful. They have farm days. I encourage anybody to go out there. It's such a sweet operation. They have a rooster sanctuary, and you go out there, and it is amazing. And it's like you drive by, and the fence is just like more roosters than you've ever seen in your life. And you're like, this is like a frat party. Like, what is happening? And there's one large like hog in the middle of the pen. And it is hysterical because apparently roosters are fine as long as there are no hens. And so they all get along with each other. So they'll take roosters, though I understand they're not right now, again, because of bird flu. But they took that rooster, and so he is living out there. Our daughter was so attached to him. I mean, she watched him get hatched, and then
I'm sure.
You actually can, though, fun fact, like DNA test them to see if they're hens or roosters very early on, and you can actually send off their shell. Now, most people don't want to do this because your chicken costs like $4 or $5. And to DNA test them, it's like $20 plus FedEx label. But in this instance, we actually did it because we wouldn't know for sure if he was a rooster until she was at sleepaway camp. And we didn't want to have to rehome him while she was gone.
Right. Oh, that would be disastrous. Yes.
So we plucked 2 feathers. We sent them to Miami because, of course, that's where the lab is that does this in Florida. It's a very Florida thing, I feel like. And they do a DNA test and they tell you if it is a male or female.
Oh, okay. Well, that answered my rooster question. Where do you buy your chickens?
You can buy them all kinds of places. A lot of people buy them online. They're online hatcheries, and they mail them through the United States Postal Service. You get a notification that they are coming, and you go to your local branch, and they're bringing a little box of chickens. Some people go to Tractor Supply Company during what are called chick days. And honestly, like, I've been known to take the kids down to chick days just for like fun. It's like going to the zoo on a rainy day because it's super cute. It's just like bins and bins and bins of chicks and ducklings everywhere.
How adorable.
There's a hatchery in Smith County about an hour away that has sort of specific breeds. So we got a couple of ours from there because we wanted to know that we were getting specific breeds that would get along with each other. And I actually wanted all my chickens to look different because I didn't want to like wonder which one was which for years. Like somebody was like, you have a really cute flock. They're also individual. And I was like, that's just because I'm really bad at telling chickens apart. And I needed them to look different.
And do you have specific cute names for each of yours?
Yes. I will note that different people in our house named different birds. So they run the gamut on names. We have Tikka Masala and Paprikash. Those 2 were named by people who felt very strongly they should be named after food. We have Olivia Rodriguez. That's one of my daughters. And Mama Mia. So we call them Olivia and Mia, Mama Mia. That at the time was one of my daughter's favorite songs. And then Stormy Daniels.
Oh, I love it. My sister's chickens were Hennifer Aniston and Feather Locklear.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point, right? Like, naming chickens is one of the great joys of owning chickens. Mm-hmm. Nobody would name their dog these names because nobody would want to be like, come here, Stormy Daniels.
Right.
Like at the park. But like it's a chicken.
But it's just between you and the chickens in your backyard.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, let's talk about their coop. Did you build this thing yourself? Did you go to Home Depot or watch a YouTube video? Or is there just a place that you can buy a coop?
So a little bit of both. We got a run online and put that in ourselves. Had to kind of do a little like zhuzhing of the run to make sure that it was secure against predators because most runs that you get online aren't. There are a million resources online if you just Google how to secure a chicken run. The house itself, actually, The chickens are technically my daughter's. I will say that. And the house was a gift from my mom to my daughter. It was a kit that my mom got, but a lot of the kits aren't great quality. So we had some extra paint, and Mom and I took it and we spent a day like putting extra coats of paint on it. We put it up on a platform to kind of get it up off the ground, just doing some things to kind of like also zhuzh it up so it would last a little bit longer. But you can get kits in all kinds of places. She found that, I think, up near Cookeville at a store.
All right. So we assume that your chickens are very clean, very neat. Do you allow them inside your house?
Not really, no.
That's a no.
No.
It sounds like you have a story.
No, every once in a while a child will try to walk in with the chicken, but we try really hard to practice good biosecurity in our house. It is not easy to do with 3 children and 2 dogs, but we try to kind of keep everybody in their place. And when we're around the chickens to, clean up after we come in. And so just not letting them in the house is a part of that. And we really don't need to because their run in their house are pretty weatherproof and secure. And so, the other night when it was threatening 70-mile-an-hour winds, I knew that there were privacy fences on 3 sides of my run. And as long as they were all in the house and locked up tight and that was in the run, but it wasn't going anywhere, they were going to be fine. It really, for us, not just with bird flu, I will say my mom has an agriculture degree. I grew up on farms, riding horses. So I don't like to mess around with farm animals in my home. I guess if I had one that were sick, I do have a plan for what I would do with that one. If it were not a type of sick I were worried about. Sometimes they get things like on their feet and they might need to come in to like recuperate for that. But for the most part, chickens should stay where chickens stay, people should stay where people stay, and dogs should stay where dogs stay, because otherwise you're just asking to spread not just bird flu. I mean, we're talking salmonella, we're talking about like E. coli. There are all kinds of things different animals carry, and just better to be safe about that.
So where do you take your chickens when they get sick?
Well, fortunately, knock on wood, mine have not gotten sick.
Oh, that was not our case. Out of the 4 chickens, one was taken by a coyote, a second by a hawk. One was egg bound. And, my roommate rushed her to a vet, and unfortunately, it was determined to put the chicken down, which was so sad. And then the 4th one, there's a thing called vent gleet that we experienced. And so never before have I had to I went to Kroger's and called then my roommate and had to ask, should I get Vagisil or Monistat for the chicken's vent? We did that. It was during COVID and we weren't seeing anyone but ourselves and these chickens. So it was quite an investment. And National Geographic just took place in the backyard.
Yeah, that is pretty intense. I mean, being egg bound is pretty common. There are little things they can get on their feet that are pretty common. A lot of that can be treated at home. There is a thing that they say about chickens, which is by the time you realize your chicken is sick, it's probably too late. Chickens are kind of the masters of hiding their own pain, which is really unfortunate because you can't know what you don't know. And if you don't know your chicken is egg bound in time to take care of it, then you can't help it. And it's super sad. There's a website, it's like Reddit for chicken owners. It's backyardchickens.com. And I've posted on backyardchickens.com and people answer. And it's a really great community of people who really know their stuff, right? And just to hear from people who've been through these experiences, I would recommend that anybody thinking of getting chickens spend time on that site, just like reading different threads, like do the deep dive. I mean, we did that for 2 years before we got chickens. I wanted to really know what I was getting into because we were going to be adopting pets for a decade. It is a really lovely community. I have a friend who told me recently that during COVID, they had to break up with their therapist and they hadn't found a new therapist. And they recently got chickens. And having the chickens made them realize that they probably should have gotten a therapist sooner. But actually, the chickens were a form of therapy. And there is something about chickens. If I'm having a bad day, I can just take a chair in the backyard with my computer and work back there with them. And they are therapeutic. They are very calming. There's something about their being and being around them. Anybody who's had chickens, I think, will say the same thing, that they just bring a peace to life that is really lovely. And anybody who has experienced them knows how much you care about them and you want to take care of them, but also knows that, they experience an incredible amount of tragedy.
Well, this whole conversation has really made me want to go and get a grilled chicken sandwich. Just kidding. I think this is wonderful. And I do hear more and more people wanting to get chickens for their backyard. I'd love to leave us on your favorite part of having chickens.
I will do that. I want to, about your grilled chicken sandwich though, I will add, this was a super interesting fact that I came across recently. So not only is poultry a $6.5 billion industry here, not only do we generate $1 billion in revenue in poultry in Tennessee, but 45% of the chicken consumed worldwide is genetically directly traced to chicken bred in Tennessee.
What?
So, yeah. So when you go eat that chicken sandwich, it probably grew up in Tennessee, whether you're eating it here or in New York City. What is my favorite thing about owning chickens? That's a really hard question because having chickens has been really fun for a lot of reasons. For me, I think it has been an incredible experience for our family. So my children, they are, like I said, one of my daughter's pets. They are technically my middle daughter's pets. And she is at an age where she has really grown into caring for them.
Oh.
And really taken responsibility for them, and to watch her grow with them and to watch them bond with her. We have 2 chickens that won't let anybody pick them up but her. To see how having them has changed her, and also as a family sort of created this other space for us to interact and to find joy, has been really lovely.
Oh, well, I have to just, for the record, I did go vegetarian while I was taking care of the chickens. It affected me so much because it was so enjoyable. I would go out there in the backyard and watch these things peck away. It's a really beautiful experience. And I was very, very invested. And I do encourage people, if you've listened throughout this entire episode and you still want them, it really can be a beautiful thing. So thank you, Quinn, so much for talking chickens. I do think it helped me a little bit work through my trauma. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!